we've been enforcing those. The one at Union West Run seems to be the one that we're knocking the most out.
It's
Everybody
25.
out there is like,
25.
We'll have,
all the neighborhoods, they don't have,
we'll have those statistics for the tour.
The statistics, the county of the waterfront, we will have print out for that.
Good, thanks, Pat. That answers my question. Fire Chief Matt.
Yes, I want to apologize for not getting my report to you earlier. I'm kind of tied up with my son's Eagle project, and it's kind of, yeah, it's chewing up a lot of time. So, with that being said, for the month of August, the fire department responded to 39 calls. Nothing really major, so it was a good month, no injuries to report, so another good month, a busy month though. Just some upcoming events. We have a couple upcoming training classes. We have a seminar that we're going to be putting on at Skill Valley High School Auditorium on October 18th. We have a nationally known speaker coming in to talk to us. We also have an EVOC class, Emergency Vehicle Operators course. That's something that the Bureau of Fire, we require all of our drivers of the vehicles to have that class. It's basically a classroom session where they learn the laws, how it pertains to it, the liabilities and so forth. And then on the Saturday, they go out and actually drive through the course. It's a timed course, puts some pressure on them. So we have that coming up. Fire prevention we have scheduled for October, beginning of October. Same as usual, Park School, I think is that Friday. So kids always look forward to that. Just a little information for you. I'm sure I told you this before, but the merger between numbers 2 and number 3 was official on June 4th. All the paper was signed by the judge, so that's done. That's a done deal. However, as part of that, there was a name change that needed to be done in order to officially adopt a new name. That could not be done as part of the merger, so that paperwork was submitted immediately. That was about a 3-month window, right, Brian? 3 months. So we're expecting that like any time now.
Yeah, another piece of paper.
And what was the name change going to be?
The new name is going to be Munhall Central Volunteer Fire and Rescue. So that we're expecting that any day now. It's been about 3 months since that was submitted. So the last, well, one other item here I want to talk about. This will be on September's report. However, I'm sure you're aware of the natural gas calls that went on a couple Saturdays ago. So the fire department, I didn't go back and do my numbers just yet on it, but we responded to had to be between 15 and 20 at least calls in a 24-hour span because of whatever the heck happened. But I guess the gas company at first denied any responsibility. However, this affected not just Munhall, Homestead, West Homestead, it was West Mifflin, it was Baldwin, it was all the way out to Mount Lebanon. So it affected a huge area. So we ran our butts off that night and continued through the next day. Yes, yeah. And that doesn't count the couple that people checked for leaks ahead of time before the rush started for the fire department.
Did they ultimately admit that they did it?
From the word that I got, and I don't have this as an official word, so I'm going to tell you the word that I got was that they put too much mercaptan into the gas supply. So the mercaptan is what gives it the odor so that you can smell it, because otherwise you can't smell natural gas. So they put too much mercaptan in there. Some of the houses we went to, we couldn't find any leaks. Other houses we went to, a pilot light had blown out or something, like a hot water tank or something. So they did have a legitimate leak, but you know, we weren't able to. We treated them all the same way, but yeah, it was very busy, and I wish they would have fessed up a little sooner. It would have helped us all in the process of answering all those calls. So the last thing I have, I don't know if I'm going to. Just want to bring it up under that workman's comp that you're talking about. You just want me to mention it there. I just want to make sure that, you know, the fire department's dissatisfaction with how it was handled last year was, and we talked about it, so was that first of all it was billed monthly. When the Relief Association was expecting one bill, pay it up front, and Munhall Borough would reimburse. So we just want to make sure that that's the way it happens this year. One bill. The relief will make that payment, because I'm assuming this new company is still gonna have to go through SWIFT.
Exactly.
Because all the fire departments throughout the state are all through the state, workman's comp.
Right.
So, you know, one payment, one invoice, one payment, they'll make the payment, and Borough reimburse, we'll be happy. And it will save probably a couple thousand on that, so.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
As far as a representative for this company, I mean, how can you get in touch with them, or how do you, is there a representative in our area that would,
Yeah.
you could talk
Yeah,
to?
Philly.
Welcome to come to our meeting and explain,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He promised service, not on the fireman's policy, but on the borough's policy, which is, like $380,000 approximately. He's promised that. But just strictly about the fire, now he'll come to fire relief meeting. Yeah. And there is a representative in Finland. So, I mean, we can talk about that again when we get to the motion.
Can I ask Matt one question?
Yeah.
Matt,
Yes, sir.
you are the fire chief, correct?
Yes, sir.
When's your tenure in as fire chief?
December
December.
31st.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. You know, we'll be having an election coming up, next month, or October chief's meeting, and that'll give it a transition period for the new chief to get their stuff together. So we might do that in mid-December, at the December council meeting.
How they gonna vote now?
The new bylaws that I circulated around the council several months ago has all of that in there. I believe council was the tie-breaking vote.
Are you still a prospective, you interested in the job still?
Pardon me?
You interested in retaining your position?
No, in those bylaws, the bylaws call for 2 consecutive terms, so this is my second consecutive term, so I'm done.
That's why I said thank you.
You're
Because
welcome.
I knew we talked about this before, and you've done a great job.
Thank you.
In my short term, being on council, I've appreciated your input and everything you've gone through for all the borough, and I just wanted to personally thank you now.
Here's a few more months though, we're gonna.
But I might forget.
I'm hoping my beard will turn back to brown.
He's telling you.
I might forget.
Old fire never die, they just fade away.
They don't fade away.
Okay, code enforcement officer.
I just want to mention, the chief mentioned to me that with the closure of the Charles Street house, that is an election site. And he alerted me that since it's shut down, maybe that should not be a
Well,
election site.
nobody mentioned, I was gonna bring that up after
Okay.
all. I'd like to have the council consider, once we get through this election site, one more time, we didn't notify the election bureau in much time.
Yeah, we did,
We did?
yeah.
So have they made arrangements to go somewhere else?
That's what I was gonna report, but I did talk to the elections department, and I asked them, I said, is there enough time, or are we just gonna set up the election there? I forget the gentleman's name that I spoke to, he said, yes, there's enough time, they'll look around, if we can't find another site, then that will be the default site for
Well,
this
I'm
election.
thinking, why don't we just finish it up there, we watch, that's about 6 weeks away, and then we have to take the building, get it ready for winter. It was occupied last year with heat, we had a $20,000 insurance claim, water main break, stream restoration ended up there, it was kind of ugly. Whatever we're gonna do with the building, we have to kind of bring it together here, and what's it used for now?
Well, we're hoping the school's gonna look at it, Bob.
Nothing. What's,
Well, the fire department, we still have a few items left in there. We have the pool table that needs to come down here.
well, they told me 18 months ago they had to get that out of there, no, they've had 18
Well,
months to get it out.
Well, part of the problem is that leaks over there, and that leak comes down and it's destroyed the wall in the kitchen. So they're looking at possibly redoing the floor down there. You know, they want to do that, fix that wall, fix it up again, but they don't want to do that. If it's, 6 months down the road, it's going to be all
Well, you may have
moldy.
to put it in storage somewhere until we can,
Well, they have a company, what they're gonna do is hire, they have a company, West Penn Builders, I believe, is gonna go and move it, so that they've got all the insurance and everything, but that's a heavy table. So once they put it in, to try to put a floor down is gonna be hard because you can't move the table, so it's,
my intentions are before the winter gets, we have to kind of get the building together and winterize it.
well, I would think.
Sell it.
Yeah, I would think.
Whether we sell it, what we do with it, it's time to, how many people have keys to it, what's happened to it? People in there.
Pat.
Oh, Pat, what happened to it?
all our buildings are being.
It's for different.
Right.
Anybody else on the fire, ma'am?
So I didn't have a problem.
Mention, the building,
Yeah.
I have to mention this building. In our wake, we started to roll down in there again, this building. That's something, and, you know, we had talked about fixing the roof and all that other good stuff. But, we're getting rolled down there again, it's a matter of time.
Well, you know, this building's 70 years old. Its time has come for probably a complete renovation. Everything, top to bottom.
It's not too bad right now, it looks like it's just surface mold,
Right.
not as bad as it was when we
That's
had
where
it.
it's starting somewhere.
But it's, yeah, it's
So
starting.
you have to have water infiltration to help you outside somewhere.
The window well.
Window well, that's what the
window
problem
wells
is.
that are- Right, that's where it's coming in.
Float them on this year.
I think we're gonna decide something.
It does need to be done, something to be done.
I'd like to move on
Well, we talked about that brush down in the flyover on the property off of the Norfolk Southern, and also the Borough Munhall, and also March Gale. Now, I know that's not going to be a popular subject with some of those people, but, you know, we've been put on alert by different groups that we're going to have to clean our properties up. Our flyover is part of it. And as I said, March Gale property, and also the railroad.
I mentioned the mayor that we try to get the cost of the commercial landscapers beyond our equipment. At least with the Munhall right away on both sides of the flyover. As far as the railroad tracks, railroad track right away, and as far as the steel company down there.
Well,
We were decided.
we both need a letter anyway. You know, that won't make us comment on the railroad, they're next to mine.
Okay, with that, I'd like to move on to code enforcement officer's report. Dave, you have your report? Yes, thanks for submitting it. Does anyone have any questions on Dave's report? With that, we'll move on to sewer authority manager. Michael is not here. However, Joe, you did bring a question up in our workshop about the fees, because we're voting to give the sewer authority our rights to enforce sewer authority ordinance 1513. And you asked about the penalties and where they got the penalties from, and Bob brought the ordinance. 1513 does refer to our maintenance ordinance in Munhall, which lists the fees, and Bob brought a copy of that with him, and Greg brought it with him as well. Greg, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, actually, 1513 is the ordinance that establishes the mandate that anybody that owns property cannot have an illegal sewer connection, and if there is, they're in violation of the ordinance. And what we did, we didn't have to state the penalties in there, because if you may recall, years ago, and this is the copy of the ordinance, 1528. And this was, Bernie was the president, it's 2008, this was signed into effect. We had discovered that we had a lot of ordinances where the fines were outdated. You know, ordinance was $30, $50, whatever. So what we did was, and this is permissible, and I've found this in a lot of communities, we did one ordinance that updated all the fines. And it's based on category, this is right out of the Borough Code. The maximum fine you can have on ordinance regarding the health, safety, welfare, things of that nature is 1,000. So we said any ordinance that pertains to that is 1,000, and everything else doesn't qualify 600. That's right out of the Borough Code. So that would apply to this ordinance right here, with the illegal stormwater connection, sewer stormwater connection. So, does that answer, is that the question you had? Maybe I misunderstood.
Well, yes, that was my question. I thought there would be a fee or a schedule of fees. You're saying 1,000 or 600. Okay, now is this an arbitrary thing? I mean, can I say I'm going to charge you either 1,000 or 600? Or does it say if you violate this, this, and this, it's 1,000? Or if you violate this, it's only 600?
Here's what it is, it's just like anything else. They go to the homeowner and they give you a notice. You have to disconnect your storm drain from a sanitary sewer. We're giving you 30, 60 days to do it. If they don't do it, they now have the authority, like we do, to issue a citation. Say you didn't comply with what we told you to do, now you're in violation of a borough ordinance. Go to the magistrate, say, we want $1,000 a day fine. That's what the ordinance calls for. It's up to the magistrate always to set the fine ultimately. He can do whatever he feels is appropriate. It's his discretion.
Also contained in the ordinance, and you asked about what happens if they take you to the magistrate. If you don't comply with the magistrate's order, the ordinance says they can disconnect you entirely from the sewer system. And if they do that, then Dave can say you can't live here. So literally, you can lose the ability to occupy a residence if you don't comply.
Is there actually a problem with that right now?
Well, there are a lot of people out of compliance, yes.
Is there?
Yeah. According, I think there are like 300 people that are not in compliance.
You know what happens, Rich? When real estate transfers, they come in to do a dye test, whether you had the dye test, passed it a year or two ago, you have to do it again. So my daughter bought a house, they came in, I'm hooked up with downspots, run them out into the driveway, out into the yards, and then they're compliant. Meanwhile, the person who buys it, now he's stuck with these, my daughter's stuck with, I'm gonna be stuck with, doing something with these lines are just running out all over the place. It's crazy. Because all you have to do to comply is unhook them. And that's what people are doing. They're unhooking them and running them, out with their lawns, out with their driveways.
To the neighbor.
Well, that's where you have a lot of problems. There's water's going down the street.
That's where it's all going. They're dumping it out into the street.
I'm also led to believe that, there is a 5% variance for exemptions of people, but I understand the variance isn't really for exemptions. It's so that if there are people that are not in compliance at any given time, that we won't be in violation, or the sewer authority won't be in violation of the consent order. So I don't believe they're gonna be looking to grant exemptions. Remember Michael came and talked about potentially granting hardship exemptions?
There's
I don't
houses
think-
on Marion, Dan, that have that problem.
They have that problem.
I think exactly down the driveway. He's supposed to come and address that next month.
Well, I thought he already did months ago.
Well, he said that there might be hardship exemptions, and I don't think there's gonna be. So we'll let him speak for himself. He's coming next month.
Just one final question. Now, this ordinance is just for the unhooking of illegal connections,
Non-compliant.
non-compliant, okay.
It could also be somebody who's putting something into the sewer system that's a controlled substance. Could be somebody that's, you're not allowed to dump paint in. So you could be in violation there, and that ordinance covers that as well.
That's exactly what it says, prohibited connections. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation connected with the Borough of Munhall sanitary sewer system to connect any roof drain thereto, or to permit, allow, or cause to enter into said sewer system any storm water or surface water. That's what's for
Okay.
Can I get a copy of this?
Okay. With that, I'd like to move on to items of consideration.
I'm going to ask council to refer to the matrix, this document, because that will maybe answer some of the questions, background on the motions. The under ordinances, number one, motion to enact ordinance number 1564, authorizing the creation of a defined contribution pension plan for Munhall Borough non-uniform employees hired on or after January 1st, 2013.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We need to have a public hearing on this. Can we do that briefly, Greg?
Yeah, Bill, right now, does anyone in the public have any comment or question about this ordinance, even though it's already an agenda item as a precaution, we're calling for a public hearing, any comment or question before council considers it?
Oh, can you define non-uniform employees, please?
Non-police.
Non-police? And that falls under the
Public Works.
Public Works?
Collective bargain, it's in the collective bargaining agreement that this has to be enacted.
Okay.
It seems that this was something agreed on years ago, and we didn't have any eligible employees at the time. Now we do, so we need to get it in place.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, that concludes the public hearing. Councilman Borough.
Roll call vote, Missy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Ballas?
Yes.
Councilman Shields?
Yes.
Councilman Bernadine?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Falls?
Yes.
Vice President Inglis?
Yes.
President Lloyd?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Motion two.
Motion to enact ordinance number 1565, known as floodplain management, requiring all persons, partnerships, businesses, and corporations to obtain a permit for any construction or development, and providing for the issuance of such permits, and setting forth certain minimum requirements for new construction and development within areas of Munhall which are subject to flooding, and establishing penalties for any persons who fail or refuse to comply with the requirements or provisions of this ordinance.
We did advertise for this. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Ballas. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ingles. Any other questions on the motion? Lindsay prepared this, Greg reviewed it. We had a public hearing.
No, we're doing that.
No, public hearing.
All right, public hearing, same thing as last ordinance. Any comment or question about this ordinance before council considers it?
If I'm building my house on top of a hill, I don't understand this flooding. Is there a certain area in here or what?
There are certain areas, the engineer can speak to that. There are very limited areas that are considered in a floodplain in Munhall Borough.
Yeah, it's only within the floodway. It's in the published FEMA maps, the firm maps. It's only along, right down the waterfront and a tiny piece of the creek in West Borough. It's not, any structures are no longer there. There's no open space for a new house to be created. So it's
You're
only in the floodways as determined by the firms.
And that's why.
You're saying with it-
Planning Ravine Street, because there are no lots along the creek to build.
You're saying if I'm up on top of the hill and a lady's down here and my water runs down on her property, is that
No,
considered?
Nothing to do, you're
nothing
not,
with that.
it only applies to the FEMA determined floodway areas.
And you're not, if you look on a flood map, you're not in a floodplain.
I didn't say that. I'm in Munhall. There must be a floodplain someplace.
Western
There
Road.
is.
And I thought Shady Avenue was a floodplain, but they put all new piping in.
Well, anyway, the answer to your question is you can do what you want without having to deal with this ordinance if you're not in a floodplain.
Any other questions or comments?
I just have a quick question, a quick comment. It doesn't specifically have to do with ordinances, but is there a list of ordinances,
It
let's
has
say?
to do with this. We're having a public hearing right now on the floodplain ordinance, so I gotta limit you if you have a question or comment about that.
I'm just saying, how do you
Sorry,
know what
we're in the
ordinance
midst of
or
a
what?
public hearing on that. So do you have anything on that issue?
No.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is there any reason why a copy of these ordinances weren't laying out for the public to look at tonight? I know a while back, whenever we did hearings on ordinances, there would be copies here waiting for the public if they wanted to pick it up and read it.
The ordinances were in the administrative office as advertised for anyone to come in and see doing business.
I do know that, but in the past, they were sitting here at council meetings.
In answer to your question, no, there wasn't any reason why it wasn't here. We probably should continue that practice. While it's new, so
That's okay.
we need to make them available.
25 pages.
This is very technical, done by the engineers, federal law mandates, and everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
You must. Or you lose your eligibility for floodplain insurance. If you don't comply, then anyone that's in a floodplain could be ineligible. Everybody's doing it. Anyone else? Thank you, that concludes the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a roll call. Missy will take the roll.
Councilman Ballas?
Yes.
Councilman Shields?
Yes.
Councilman Bernadine? Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Falls?
Yes.
Vice President Inglis?
Yes.
President Boyd.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to enact ordinance number 1566, authorizing and delegating the Munhall Municipal Sewer Authority to enforce Borough Ordinance number 1513, prohibiting the connections of surface water and storm water from any property or structure into the sanitary sewer system, and providing penalties for violations.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Ingles, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Shields. We're gonna move to a public hearing on this as well.
Public hearing again. Anybody have any comments or questions on this ordinance before council considers enactment?
I have one more question. I just read this now. It says any property or structure. Shouldn't that mean, we have combined sewer system down below the cemeteries? They can do that. They can discharge their water does go into the sewers. Should there be like an exception there, except in the combined sewer system area?
You know, this is something that I asked Greg about.
I just,
There are properties along 8th Avenue where if you dump the water out onto the sidewalk, you're creating a slip and fall hazard. And technically, you're not allowed to put it in the sewer, in the sanitary sewer, but he had said, you know, it has to be enforced with some discretion.
Well, below the cemetery isn't part of it, below 22nd isn't part of the consent area.
Well, I understand that, but at the same time, I've had the county plumbing division come out and say, you can't put that stormwater into that sewer. And they've enforced that again with discretion.
okay, that's, I just want, what I just said.
Now, let me just say this. We're not making new law. The law, all we're doing is giving them the authority to enforce the law. We already passed many years ago with ordinance 1513, and this was enacted in 2006. So
I just want to know, originally, I just want to know how outdated some of this fee structure was, and that you said about the code.
It does have a definition in here of combined sewer system that talks about that.
That's okay.
So that's in that original order, so that
Okay.
recognized that situation could arise.
I haven't seen it in quite a while, so I wasn't sure if it did or
Good question.
for a change.
Hey, wait, going back to Joe's question. At my place, we get water, and everybody gets water in their summers. The flood water, earth water comes up. And when you're in front of my place, where the crack is in the sidewalk, you could see the water will be high, and then it'll go down lower, lower, lower. In the wintertime, it all freezes. Now, his problem is, whose fault is it if they fall in front of my place? Is it my fault, or is it whose?
That's not really the issue we're talking about.
I know, but I'm just
We're
saying,
talking about something
but
else.
everybody up in Munhall Farmers got water in their summer, and we're on top of the hill.
Water runs downhill.
Yeah, God puts the water on this earth.
I understand what you're saying.
And it's gonna
I'm
fall
saying,
natural
I
course.
understand what you're
Yeah,
saying,
that's the way it is.
but the water keeps as the flood, as the water in the earth goes down, and you can see it coming down.
It's always gonna be that.
Yeah, but I'm saying, if they fall down on front of my place, what happens? I get sued? I guess I do.
Again, I heard me say before, I don't know, here's not what I'm looking for.
Everybody gets water up there, on top of the hill.
Question,
I think we ought to put it right to the store.
Any other questions?
question, comment?
Yes.
Why did we wait so long to enact this ordinance?
The sewer authority asked us to do it just recently.
Okay,
We're
only
giving them
because,
the authority to enforce. We've had it since 2006.
correct, and the original dye testing happened in 2007. Letters from the sewer authority went out in 2011.
You have to ask the sewer authority. They asked us to do it.
I think it was
I
before
did.
that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just seems odd. So they could never really enforce this till after council passes this.
Okay.
You'd have to ask them that. You know, that's apparently what they feel. I don't know what action they were taking. They're independent. They asked us for assistance in
They
this.
have a
We
new
responded.
solicitor now.
Yeah.
Hey, now this water,
Thank you.
Yeah.
this water that's running through our yards.
I forget his.
Now, could I connect down over into the source instead of coming off of my roof?
Oh, you can't put stormwater into the sanitary sewer, you may not do that. That's not a new law. That's been in existence since 2006. That's not changing. We're just letting the sewer authority come after you if you violate it, that's all. You won't have to deal with us, you can deal with them. Yeah. Okay?
I wanna know what I'm gonna do with this water.
Well, that's not a matter
Like
of.
Terry,
We're gonna move on. Is there any other questions on?
I'm gonna put it right down the sewer. I'm gonna pump it from my yard into the sewer.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Missy, would you take the roll, please? All those in vote appropriately.
Councilman Ballas?
Yes.
Councilman Shields?
Yes.
Councilman Bernadine?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Foss?
Yes.
Vice President Inglis?
Yes.
President Lloyd?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Next one, a motion to award the Munhall Borough Web Redesign Project to Hulk Web Design LLC at the proposal price of $6,845, and ongoing content maintenance at $50 per month, with the first 60 days free.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Did we have, was that set to bid, or how about Andy? What's
Mayor,
his-
can you, we'll discuss
Oh,
it
okay.
after.
I'm sorry. I
So
thought-
we have a second on the motion, second by Mr. Brennan. Now, discussion on the motion.
Yeah, was that out the bid? Can't we get that?
It
Andy?
was put out the bid, it was advertised.
Andy, what's his name?
Well, he could have bid on it, yeah, we put it out the bid. I have a
Within your
question.
matrix, the background of the policy.
Was this a budgeted item in 2000, for 2000?
No, and, you know, I was gonna ask the same thing, should we spend the $6,000 or can we wait?
You gotta hurry to get that now.
Wait till January.
Like table, maybe?
The impact on the budget, if you read the matrix, that we split between contingency and miscellaneous, 48.21, 492.62.
I think we ought to take that $6,000 and fix them in the facility and wait till next year. This ain't no emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
Well, I put it on there because you requested proposals back in June, and that's what we did, we got proposals.
We can wait till the first of the year.
I mean, I think, you know, we're talking about maybe laying people off.
Okay, we'll take a vote on Rob's motion to table. All those in favor of tabling the motion?
I'll just resend my motion, I'll just resend my motion.
Oh, yeah, we don't have a second. Do we have a second?
Yeah, you did, yeah, you did. You did.
Resend my motion, be done with it?
Running. I said,
Bree seconded the motion. Can you second his motion to table?
I can just resend my motion. Resend my
You're
motion.
welcome to rescind the motion.
Resend the motion.
Motion is rescinded, so we consider it, tabled. We'll move on.
Next item, motion to award and enter into a contract with Collect Plus LLC to serve as Munhall Borough's rental license fee and delinquent fee collector according to the terms of the contract, and at the collection rate of 3% for current collections and 20% for delinquent collections.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Ingles, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brennan. Question on the motion, Mayor?
Question the mayor's always done. Can you explain it to me?
We can. We discussed this at great length. The finance chairman, Mr. Brennan, and I, and our borough manager, met with the gentleman from this company who does collections all over the state. And he said that we would, everywhere he's been, and Bob's had experience again with him in his former job in Crafton, they brought them in and they found a lot of money that it's not a new tax. The tax or the assessment fee for rental license is already there, but they come in, they use databases, they use multiple databases from water company, trash collection, state databases, our database for our landlords, and then they go about collecting the money and the delinquent money. But also what he said is that they may find, in their experience with everywhere that they've done this, is that they will find numerous people who are making money and working, like say at the waterfront, but they're not paying their wage tax, which then gets turned over to our delinquent wage tax collector, and it could bring in, there's not a lot of money to collect just on this ordinance, but it's worth it to us because we don't have to pay to have that database built. It's gonna bring in, everything they bring in is value added to us. All right?
Wage tax comes out of your paycheck automatically now, unless you're self-employed.
Unless you don't know that your data is being taken out.
It has to be
Or-
taken out, it's mandatory by
Yeah.
law.
And also what they found, Donna, is in many communities, like in Crafton, where, for instance, their zip code's 15205. Moon is in that zip code, Robinson's in that zip code, and these chain stores, you know, these people on the waterfront, you have some manager that moves here from Minnesota, they don't know Homestead from Munhall. They see 15120, it says Homestead, and there's a good possibility that those wage taxes are going to the wrong town. We're gonna find some of that too. So it's just another vehicle for us to collect more revenue without passing a new tax.
At the workshop, when we discussed this at the workshop, he said that it would be 20% for delinquent, collections. Nothing was said about 3% for current collections that I recall.
That's my question also, I don't remember, and I had a lot of questions for the gentleman.
You're right. Yeah. You're correct, but I did send out the agreement you sent us for review. It did say 3%. It's up to you, but it did say 3%.
I think that was often here.
Yeah.
I think there was, the other thing was,
Correct. Well, it was gonna cost us 3% of the total, what's the total off rental license fee? There's,
Roughly around $33,000 is what we collect in a year for the rental occupancy.
so we're talking about
$75 per
$900.
And it's $30 per unit.
He's gonna do it for the 20.
Yeah, I don't recall him mentioning that on current,
No, there was nothing mentioned whatsoever. Right.
and we do that internally now.
why don't we impact them taking that 3%, because not all of them are bad, maybe there's some easy pays that.
You could
we're
probably
losing
forget
it.
the 3 and just go with the delinquency. I just
I mean, I'm
reported
proposing
it.
that, yeah, I mean, even though I thought 20% was a lot, but something from that, you know, is better than nothing. That's
Even 20%? They made all those changes, we cut some little, two little things. Yeah. I wanted to, if someone brought this up in the audience, I wanted the right to cancel at any time with 90 days notice, not just before the end of the contract. And there was some language I said should be deleted. In other words, when I first reviewed this, I made a lot of suggested changes. So this was in a memo. Bob sent it back to them. They sent a response, and they made almost all the changes, but there was still two little things I thought should be corrected, and I sent that back. I don't know if they got that. One of them was about the right to cancel.
Yeah,
Let me see the line, what does it say? Yes, yeah, I want that deleted, where it says prior to the end of the current term. We just have 90 days to cancel, to send them notice. That language should come out right here. So they should strike this out. I think we ought to put this on hold until we get a little more
Well, what, I'm gonna make it, that's a good point, but I'm gonna make a suggestion, that was one other change.
The other one was, it says, the borough pays all postage and printing fees. I want to get a handle on that before we agree to that. What does that mean? That's all. I just didn't know what we might be looking at. It's kind of an open-end cost, but I don't know if that's a concern or not. That was the main thing, was the cancellation. And then the other thing was just to get some idea.
We have we have a motion on the floor. Missy, who made the motion?
I did.
Harvey? And it was seconded by Mr. Brennan.
Correct.
Would you make an amendment to your motion?
Rescind the motion or?
No, I just asked you if you would maybe accept an amendment to the motion, and what I'm gonna propose is that we make offer of striking the 3%, adding the language that Greg has asked for, which was the 90-day cancellation, and pass it contingent upon their acceptance. And if they say no, then we're back to, it's the same as tabling it.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable to you, Rich?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the motion is then amended, have the amendments?
Yep.
So it will be an offer to them, which they can say yes or no.
Is that the only things that have to be clarified, right?
Yeah, they had already made most of the changes I asked for. I originally had like 10 or 12 points I said I don't like, and they changed them all, but the way they changed the cancellation, they didn't make it just right. And so I just struck out the language that creates confusion. I want us to have the right to cancel anytime. We give them 90 days notice, they can wrap up their affairs and it's done. We don't have to be committed to any term. That's how I like contracts for us. We can walk if we don't like it. So they seem very cooperative. They think they're gonna do a good job, and I think they're willing to make all the changes we asked for. The only other point was I didn't know what postage and printing was, that's all. That's our responsibility. I just be nasty.
Okay, we have a revised motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion's unanimous.
What is the revised,
Motion to award the early.
What was that?
what is the revised motion now?
Well, the revised motion was striking the 3% for current. They're not gonna collect current, and there's a
Clarify the 90-day cancellation.
90-day cancellation clause is any time, not at the end of 3 years.
Well, that's what I asked at the beginning of the meeting, didn't I?
What's that?
I asked that at the beginning of the meeting, and I was told it was any time.
No, he said, I think what Bob said,
It was any time, but we're never clarified.
The language was ambiguous, the way I read it. So the easy way to fix it is to strike out a few words in there that makes it clear it's any time. And that's the change that I've recommended, that they're going to insist on that.
Okay.
Motion to award the early intervention program analysis to Resource Development and Management Incorporated at the proposal cost of $53,000 under the condition that Munhall Borough receives a substantial DCED grant for the stated purpose.
do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Ingles,
I'll second the motion.
second by Mr. Brennan. Discussion on the motion. Bob, do you want to talk about this? It was in your packet, but.
We all got a question.
The early intervention program is a state program that provides consultation to municipalities that are having financial difficulty, primarily to prevent them from getting in future financial difficulties. And it's called the Early Intervention Program. It's a line item in the DCED budget. And it was recommended by DCED that we go ahead and apply for this because of our past problems. What this essentially does, it does our financial analysis of Munhall. It shows the trends, and then it will project for the next 5 years, beginning in 2016, what we have to do from a financial as well as an operational point of view to bridge the gap from revenue to expenditures and bring it down and to get ourselves in a good solvent position. The state does have a list of consultants on which that we send proposals to. We requested proposals from 4. We did receive 2, one from Resource Development and Management from Forest Hills, and one from the Novak Group from Cincinnati. The one from Cincinnati was $69,000. So this group would be retained, probably work the better part of 6 to 8 months to take a look at all of our departments, our staffing, our costs, take a look at our revenue base where we have shortfalls, and give us a financial plan for the next 5 years.
What's it gonna cost Munhall Borough?
My best,
$5,300.
It'll be budgeted next year. So that's,
it will be roughly 10%. If we're successful in getting the money from the state, which is conditioned on this motion, 10%, and I don't see us paying that until 2015.
Will this have any effect on any of our other DCED, whether it be county or state money?
No.
And this is something that when we were going through the process in March and April, searching for a manager, we brought in the DCED to help us in that process. And Mike Foreman from the state DCED recommended that we consider doing this.
Mike recommended this like probably 2 years ago. I talked to him. When we talked to Mike Foreman, you know you're talking to someone that knows what he's talking about. It's long overdue.
Well, it is, and the application is very tedious and complicated. I'm glad Bob was here to do it. I think this is right for our financial future. So that said, we have the motion on the floor. Any more questions on it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is unanimous.
Motion to appoint the HDH Group as Munhall Borough's exclusive agent and broker of record for soliciting and securing property liability insurance upon the expiration of the current property liability insurance coverage. Current coverage does expire in October. Back in June, I was authorized to seek proposals from property and liability companies. It's a laborious process. We filled out quite a few forms, and we're suggesting that HDH Group help us with the identification of those firms for us to make a decision. There's no cost to Munhall to retain HDH Group.
That's my question.
Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Brown. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Shields. Discussion on the motion.
Yeah, what happened with Allegheny Professionals?
Well, actually what happened is that, we have no numbers yet for our renewal. We did see, the state do an automatic renewal on the workers' comp, but this is on the property liability package, and this is with the company that Bob's recommending to us. They provided a real, I think everybody knows Florian. They did our workers' comp pool from HDH. They're at Seven Springs every year, and they probably do more municipal business than any broker in the state. They're good at it. They can bring a lot more resources to the table for us in loss control. In fact, that's how we got the occupational health nurse that's going to work with us on the workers' comp and managing our claims. And hopefully at some point, this firm can get us back into the pool to save us some money off of the state rates.
I talked to Chris Terry today. He said he wasn't able to have his numbers here on time. And I questioned why he wasn't able to have those numbers. This was the last meeting before this expires. And he said we'd have to have a special meeting to be able for him to have his numbers on, before the October 1st deadline. And I told him special meetings for one agenda item usually doesn't go over well here because everyone has to get together one night for one agenda item. But my question is, was he given enough time to get his numbers together?
He did submit forms to us. We did get them in. Missy was able to complete all of those. Whether it was on time or not, I don't know, but we did submit those, and essentially it was the same forms that I had to complete for HDH for them to consider if they're able to help us to shop around and find a good, affordable insurance company. So,
The point is, when you're the incumbent broker, you can start 120 days in advance. So there should have been something on the table for us.
He knew 120 days in advance this thing was coming up.
Absolutely.
You're an insurance guy, I don't know.
Absolutely. You start marketing an account this size 120 days in advance, and here we are 2 weeks from renewal. We don't have a price and we don't know where we're going to be. So, you know, Bob's worked with this group before. I know who this group is, they're reputable. And I think we're gonna have a better shot of getting numbers from them than where we're at. We don't have any numbers.
Well, apparently he doesn't have the numbers so he can submit, that's not our fault.
Correct.
He doesn't have it. I don't know why he doesn't have the information yet. I guess someone's holding him up, but.
No?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to him also, he called me up also, and he said that he's called the office a few times and asked for, you know, the numbers that he needed, and he was not given the numbers that he needed.
Yeah, and I think that goes both ways.
He said he started calling back in July, is what he told me.
I think he's getting quotes from whoever he's dealing with. He hasn't gotten those numbers back
He
either.
mentioned to me that he needed our numbers because Travelers or the insurance company every 3 years needs to evaluate it. He didn't say he needed it to be competitive.
And the
So
other
what's the
item
difference?
was.
I mean, I'm not an insurance man, what's the difference?
Well, I don't know, we submitted to him for Travelers to evaluate. Travelers certainly will be, hopefully, one of the companies that will submit bids for us.
But one of the issues too was that Bob put this out to a couple of brokers, and they needed loss runs, and he called for loss runs, and they held those up. Now, if you don't have loss runs when you're having claims at the rate we're having them, you can't get quotes from anybody. So we kinda got held hostage, so,
What do you mean, we were held hostage? We didn't get the loss runs from Travelers, from Allegheny Professionals?
But we finally did get them, yes.
but they held them up. And without them, you can't get quotes from insurance carriers, because the fact is, we had 82 claims in the last 5 years, exclusive of the workers' comp. So we need to get a loss control program in here, and we think that HDH is the people that are gonna bring that to the table.
I mean, I know, you know, this is the same group that has been bidding on the insurance for the last 4 years, 6 years.
We didn't take bids for the last 3 years.
Yes, we have. Every 2 years we've taken
We
bids.
had some numbers about,
3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah. There was about 3 or 4 bids we had to choose from.
Right, and I know we went, you know, line by line over all of them. Are we going to do that again this time?
I think we ought, you know, if we have a broker for how many years, we should at least give them a chance to submit some numbers and compare.
Background was on page 77 and 78.
So everybody can look at it.
Well, I don't think we didn't exclude him. He wasn't
This
excluded.
wasn't excluded.
I'm not saying it was, but.
Well, he kinda did.
But
He wasn't part of
I
it.
think
He was
it
part of
doesn't
it.
just say we're excluding them.
Line somewhere.
So I've done this shopping around to find us the best rates.
You know, this firm does Baldwin Township, Beaver Borough, Bridgeville Borough, Churchill Borough, City of Duquesne, Cranberry Township, Dormont Borough, Edgewood Borough, Elizabeth Township, Etna Borough, Ford City Borough, Fox Chapel Borough, Green Tree Borough, Irwin Borough. Obviously, they must do something right, and the list goes on, there's like 30 of them on here. Is that who you're recommending?
Did we ever have any bad service from Allegheny Professional?
Can't even get a bid for them from them.
Well, we're still waiting for a bid 2 weeks from the date that we need to have the coverage.
So you don't have their information. Chris admitted to me today, he can't be ready for tonight.
And when you asked me if we had bad service, you know, our crime coverage for a budget that's $6.6 million, our total crime coverage on our package policy was $25,000. Need you ask the question. You know, Matt Galla should have had probably a $250,000 or $300,000 bond. He had a $35,000 bond. We're looking at a $300,000 loss.
But he wasn't
He wasn't bonded through them.
And did our broker say, Joe, we're at risk? Did he tell you we're at risk, we don't have adequate bonding for your treasurer?
He figured he had the bond through you, to be honest with me. To be honest with everyone, he thought you got him the bond.
Well,
Whenever Mr. Gallagher didn't reply back to Allegheny Professional, because he gave him all the paperwork, He said he thought that the bond, he got it through you.
Oh, Matt probably told me that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you know?
Matt said a lot of things.
Right. So, I mean, you need to say something if you don't know it.
He just asked a question. I don't speak for everybody, no, I'm not saying.
I'm not speaking, I'm speaking for myself.
What's the deadline on this?
October 1st.
You know, and this was never discussed. I mean, that's the other thing, it was, none of this was ever discussed at a workshop. We should have discussed this last week, maybe we wouldn't have all these questions now.
Well, there's nothing wrong with questions.
No, I'm just saying, there's a lot, I mean, I have questions.
We have a motion on the floor.
So does anyone here think this is inappropriate to do this tonight? Because I'll tell you a little story about insurance, impropriety of insurance. About 10 or 12 years ago, there was a company on the agenda being awarded the insurance. The manager sat right here, and I walked in, I said, is this the only proposal we have? They said, absolutely, that's all we have. Halfway through the meeting, before that motion came up, the manager went downstairs, brought new proposals and passed them around here. It was illegal. It was probably the worst thing I had ever seen sitting on this board. I looked over at the manager, I said, when did you get these numbers? He wouldn't answer me. During the meeting, the numbers came in for the new insurance proposal. That was inappropriate. You were here, Rich.
Yeah.
That was inappropriate. You know something? Not one other person but myself even brought it up how inappropriate that was that night. And that company that had the 11th hour, who I believe saw the other company's numbers, was awarded the contract that night. That was inappropriate. I don't know if, I don't think this is. I asked Chris, I will not exclude you from this process. I said, you have to call Bob, can you have your numbers in? He said, I can't have them in today. You have to have a special meeting. The bottom line is, we're going to have a special meeting and go through this again next week? I don't know. That's what I went through here about 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it, I just thought.
I remember it too.
No, you were here, Joe. You were here.
I was here.
I think we should make a vote and vote on it.
All right,
We have a
motion's
motion
on the floor.
on the floor, so let's
Lindsay,
vote
can
on
we
it.
have a roll call, please?
Councilman Ballas?
No.
Councilman Shields?
Yes, but I'm not, I have no problems with the former insurance carrier, but we're at the 11th hour now, and we have to, this is it. He had an opportunity to get his numbers in. Why he didn't, I don't know.
We asked before as an agent or a broker of record to get us some numbers.
Councilman Botadani?
No.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Foss?
No.
Vice President Inglis?
I guess Nate, they're not gonna wait for a special meeting. I'm gonna vote yeah, but I'd rather have a, they're not gonna do it.
President Lloyd?
Yes. Motion carries 4-3.
Motion to appoint Insurance Services of Pittsburgh as the broker of record for Munhall Borough Volunteer Fire Department. I'll read that back. Motion to appoint Insurance Services of Pittsburgh as the broker of record for Munhall Borough and the Munhall Borough Volunteer Fire Department.
Make that motion.
You making a motion? Do we have a second on the motion? Second by Mr. Shields. Discussion on the motion? Questions? Joe?
Yeah, the only thing I heard Matt say that the reason they were dissatisfied was because of the billing procedure. And we're gonna have to go through the same people anyhow. We're gonna have to go through the state probably.
It will be through the state, and it'll be billed the way that the fire department requested. I think the problem was that they requested that in the beginning, and that didn't happen, and then they called several times, and they couldn't get anybody to come out. It ended up being, me and Bernie went out to the fire department's meeting, And I figured out in about 5 minutes what the problem was, and we put that to bed, but they were pretty upset because their money was on.
Dan stood up, went through the invoices, in about 5 minutes, he knew what the problem was. I wouldn't have been able to figure it out.
Should that read Bureau of Fire or Relief Association?
Relief Association.
I don't know if that matters in.
Technically, in technical terms, it should be the Relief Association. I can tell you this, the firm is part of the Keystone and Shores Group. They're endorsed by the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. This move will save the borough approximately $10,000 in fees. They've agreed to cut the fee that was charged in half. In addition, they've agreed to solicit the state to potentially give us a retrospective rating plan on our workers' comp. And for everybody that doesn't know what a retrospective rating plan is, we've had a pretty horrendous loss history here in the last 5 years for workers' comp. And it drives up your experience mod. Anybody that's in business knows if you lay a lot of people off, you get surcharged by the state in your unemployment rate. It works the same way in workers' comp. If you have a lot of claims, they raise your experience modification factor. I think the fire department this year is looking at approximately a 47% surcharge. The borough on their policy is about a 36% surcharge. This firm's agreed to go to the state and negotiate what's called a retrospective rating plan, which means if our losses are less than what they have been, we have an opportunity to get some premium back. And then if they're more, there could possibly be a surcharge. But right now, it's just pay $420,000 and that's it. So that's why we looked at this company to do this for us and to save the 10 grand. Any questions? Okay, motion's on the floor. Roll call, Missy.
Councilman Ballas?
No.
Councilman Shields?
Yes.
Councilman Bodadian?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Falls?
Yes.
Vice President Inglis?
Yes.
President Lloyd?
Yes. Motion carries 6-1.
If anybody's interested, at the top of the 7th, it's 9-1 Pittsburgh. Just see if you're paying attention. Motion to adopt a letter of intent requesting financial management / QuickBooks consultant services for the administrative office personnel. This will be through DCED, no cost to the borough.
Motion. Motion by Mr. Falls. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ballas. Questions on the motion? I think it's worth a brief explanation, Bob.
As you know, we've had some financial management issues, and Harry's taking up a good part of it now. He's kind of self-learning. He's doing a good job, but the state is willing to provide some technical expertise to help us along and to further advance that skill. We don't know how many hours a week. We do know that they do have consultants that will supply that for us. What we have to do is officially adopt a letter of intent requesting consultant services for this particular purpose to the Department of Community and Economic Development. That'll be reviewed. Hopefully it will be approved. When it's approved, they will then assign a consultant to us for so many hours a week. It's not forever, maybe just for a few months.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion's unanimous.
Motion to pay bills for the period August 20th, 2014 through September 15th, 2014, as in the profit and loss detail report, which you have in front of you, summarized as follows. Administration, $29,106.28. Police, $54,905.08. Fire, $23,240.10. Health and sanitation, $33,947.90. Public Works, $63,295.19. Recreation, $5,675.96. Miscellaneous, $3,140.81, for a total $222,311.32.
Motion by Mr. Ingles, second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Shields. Questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to approve payroll for the period of August 28, 2014 through September 11, 2014 as follows. Payroll for August 28, 2014, $110,728.95. For September 11, 2014, $111,947.46, for a total $222,676.41.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bellis, second. Second by Mr. Bodine. Any questions on the motion? Oh, what's that, Harvey?
Could be overtime or something.
Yeah, it could be different number of days in the pay period too. Any other questions on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion's unanimous. I have one more motion to add. Donna, if you want to ask a question.
Okay.
Consistent with the mayor's wishes, motion to add a stop sign at the corner of Center and Caroline Streets, effective immediately.
You know something, whenever we did these things like this, there's always been someone show up and, do we like, do it next month?
We can't.
Okay with you, Ray?
Yeah, next month,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we had studies there, and then we did one thing, obviously, the people at the vet hospital, were unhappy and all that.
Hey, Mike, maybe you could say, consider putting a stop sign there and see if we
That's
get
right,
any
we
complaints.
can put it on the agenda, someone can look at it and question if they want, instead of us.
So, who made the motion?
For the parking issue, if we put a stop sign there, there's not gonna be any parking.
I'm not worried about the parking issue.
That's what the Met House was worried about.
The accident.
That's what I was worried about, the same
And
thing.
you can't park so close to a stop sign and, you know,
Right. That's what they were all
That'll
about.
put going down here,
That's
three
the way.
things, you're taking parking away from them by.
That's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you remember that, that's.
sorry, he's an issue.
Hey, Mayor, first thing they're gonna ask was that done by ordinance, because that's what they did with the
Yes.
no parking.
And that's why I asked for the order.
Thank you, Pat. That was my question to Danny. Don't we have to do an ordinance rather
That's
than a
my
motion?
request.
We have an ordinance that authorizes, parking and traffic changes can be done by resolution, except for speed. Speed, you know, then we have to go through a whole engineering study. These type of changes can be done by simple resolution vote, because we enacted an ordinance to allow that.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, do you want to talk about the meeting we had at the distillery the other night?
Yeah.
We attended a meeting at the Enterprise Zone meeting at the State Tune Distillery. I don't know if anybody's been there, my first trip. Pretty neat setup they have down there. It's, they were making gin when we were down there. And,
Now, we're lucky, we got a
we were tasting gin after you left.
We got a distillery there, and then we got some beer place down in Oak Street.
Yeah,
Got your choice.
I was bought some tonic water if I was down.
Were you allowed to drink at that meeting?
No, no.
Okay.
Drink at this meeting.
I think we should start.
I have a couple things.
After the meeting.
Kind of sticky subject. That I'd like to have some more information on is that, that $40,000 grant that was given to, construction person.
Yes.
And we have no paperwork on it, and the county don't have nothing on it as far as the grant goes.
Yes.
Well, where do we sit on that as far as getting that money back?
I'm gonna defer to the solicitor, he's aware of that.
I'm aware of the subject, I don't know if we ever had an investigation done,
Um,
look into, I know there was a question raised some time ago about that.
That information was passed along to the district attorney's office. That is part of their investigation. I would assume that's part of their investigation.
Well, that's the best means to explore it then, if we have law enforcement and DA looking into it.
They will provide that.
Okay, well, then that's how it should be handled.
And for clarification, that came to my attention in August, I believe, of 2013. And I passed that along to Tim Little the day that I received it. And Tim said that he talked to other council members to ask them if they knew anything about that, about the supposed grant. I then, several months later, I had a meeting with the chief, and I passed that information along to him as well with a copy of that check, and it was passed along to the district attorney's office.
It should be part of the trial.
It should be.
Part of the investigation.
Is there, who signed the check?
My name is on it, but it is not my signature, it is my stamp that he did not have the authorization whatsoever to use.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to go into a lot of detail.
Yeah, that's right, we can't go into a whole lot more.
Well, I'd just like to know, the outcome of it.
Yeah.
Well, we've requested that the money be returned. Greg sent a letter to his attorney requesting that they return the money. So we'll see how they respond. I will tell you that I didn't think there was anything to it, that there could be no argument made why it shouldn't be returned. And the person in question, who I won't mention, brought me a stack of emails that were about an inch high of correspondence going back and forth from our borough office to him about this grant. Actually, there were several grants. And so, given that, if somebody's corresponding back and forth with you for 18 months saying, well, maybe this grant will fit, maybe that grant will fit, you know, you're a member of the general public, you probably think it's legitimate. We found no evidence in the borough that it was.
I'm gonna ask Bob, as your time, you've been a manager for a long time, any type of grant has to come before the council at a public meeting, right? We can't,
First of all,
you can't go out and seek a grant without telling us and addressing it in a public meeting that it's been, we're gonna be voting on if we're gonna go for that grant, right?
First of all, generally, if you're talking a public grant, that's gotta be done by resolution.
Resolution,
By
it has
that,
to be done right here.
and then to actually the acceptance of the grant.
Well, he didn't, apparently didn't know that, maybe he didn't have to know that. Whoever used the stamp,
But there was,
There was no.
but there was no grant.
there was no grant.
There was no grant, but if there was, it would have to be done right here.
Well, that's what I said when he actually came to me and said, you know, Gal's not there, where do I get the rest of my money? I said, what money? He said, well, I have another 40,000 coming. He said, I never heard of such a thing before. And I said, do you have paperwork? And he said, no, I don't have any paperwork. And that's when I asked him for a copy of the check. He gave me the check. I referred it to Tim Little and Pat, and it's now in the hands of the DA.
Wish you would've referred it to me
I
first.
don't believe that the DA, well, I can't speak for what they're doing.
Are they still pursuing that, or?
Part of the case.
It's an ongoing investigation. I haven't spoken to them particularly about that for quite some time.
Question, why didn't you ask me about it? It was not asked, I mean, maybe.
I
it
referred
could've
to
been a lot
Tim
further.
Little to ask all council.
He asked me if we knew about a grant, and that was the only thing I knew. And I said no.